Hello world, today's going to be a video on why I left Canada and why I left Ontario. Now, that's not to say it's a bash fest. I am Canadian at the end of the day. There are plenty of things I love about Canada, and a lot of the things I dislike or critique are because I want to see Canada do well. I am not a hater. I will still go back to Canada at some point in the future. I still have family there, I still have connections, but I base myself more globally now, so I am not permanently residing in Canada. Now, with that out of the way, I'm also going to put a disclaimer as well that I come from a pretty international family, so I've always had ties abroad. So that's one of the reasons I had no problem moving abroad. I've spent large chunks of my life abroad in different countries. However, I spent the last 4 years living in Ontario, although I'm originally from New Brunswick, and these are some of the reasons that I felt like I needed a change. So, in no particular order, I'm going to start with car dependency and infrastructure. Now, this is a big one for me because I am a professional pedestrian. I prefer not to ride a car, I prefer not to own a car, and I don't like having to own a car. Now, you do have your buses, you do have your GO train, you do have subway lines in Ontario. However, the issue is that I find it far too car dependent. This is an issue for most of North America, and some areas do fare better than others. But getting to a lot of the beautiful nature spots can be more accessible purely by car. There's not really an extensive high speed rail system around Canada either, so there's that issue. Now, actual day to day life, I'd ride my bike, I could get around, but there were some caveats. Not all the bike lanes were created equally. When you had a nice bike path, you had a nice bike path. Otherwise, you were kind of on the side of a road, just a painted strip, which works well enough for downtown. But in Mississauga, Oakville area, it could have been better, particularly in winter. Sometimes the snow was just shoveled into the bike lane, so you either had to ride with the cars or on the sidewalk. I shamelessly rode on the sidewalk a lot in Canada, made sure I didn't hit anybody or interrupt anybody, but sometimes there weren't many better options. I found a lot of drivers kind of disregarded you when you were a bike. A lot of people just didn't look where they were going, didn't pay attention for cyclists or even pedestrians sometimes. And it made me feel a lot more unsafe than when I bike in some other countries, just because cars didn't seem very tolerant of bicycles. In fact, most people on bikes, or cyclists as a whole, seem to be regarded with quite a bit of disdain. This might be a North America issue in general. Now, on a positive note, you can take your bike usually on the buses. There's a place to put them. You can also take it on the GO train. So with a bike plus public transportation combo, you can actually make this work. All right, number two. So, a lot of people say cost of living, but I would like to add to that. I think cost of living is somewhat manageable, but the issue is value. In Canada, I did not feel like, particularly in Ontario, I did not feel like I was getting the value for money. Not just, oh my God, it's expensive and this. It's like, I'm okay with things being expensive if I feel I'm getting well compensated for it. So when I feel that I pay a certain amount to live in an area, I expect the neighborhood to be safe. I expect my living conditions to be comfortable. And I felt like Canada's getting less and less value based. I feel like I'm getting less for my money when I go to a restaurant. I feel like I'm getting less for my money when I go to the grocery store. I feel like I'm getting less for my money when I rent or want to purchase a house. So, in a sense, quality of life offset by value. Am I getting a good enough quality of life for the amount I'm paying? And how I felt was, this isn't doing it for me. I just wasn't seeing the value. You expect a certain amount of safety. I got my bike stolen twice in Oakville, and although nothing ever happened to me directly, you could feel the atmosphere when you went in downtown, whether it was the homelessness or the rampant drug use. It became a little bit like I started to wonder, where is my tax going? The infrastructure could be better, the roads could be better, and I felt I was at a loss for an answer. Now, this one, again, is purely my opinion, is the credit based system. Now, I understand people want to build their credit, you want to get a better record on your credit card, whatever it might be. But I just felt like everyone bought things on credit, everyone was keeping up with the Joneses. It's like that's all it was. And I guess I come from a time where you buy the phone you can afford and you don't go get the latest one on payments so you look as cool as Joe Blow. This kind of got to me after a while that everything was on credit. Not a distinctly Canadian problem, but hey, I don't like it and I saw it a lot. Now, this last one might be relatable for some of you. Canada's great. That's the issue. The issue is everyone seems so down. I don't know if it was just my circle, but everyone seemed like they had had enough, or were talking about the good old days, or oh, things used to be better. I don't want to be in a place where I have to long for the good old days. I want to feel like, yo, this is the future. I'm at the forefront. There's nowhere I would rather be. That's how I want to feel. And, that might be spoiled or entitled, but hey, at least I have the option. And I'll come back to Canada once I feel like that it's going to be the place I want to be at that time. And currently, it's just not. I want to be there sometimes, but I don't want to be there all the time. And another one was I kind of didn't like the weather. I was born in New Brunswick. It's cold as the witch's teat, but let's be honest, I don't prefer Ontario weather. I find we get this weird middle ground where it doesn't get beautiful snow and you get snowed in and it's just white, 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 white snow. You kind of get the muddy snow where it's a bit melted, slushy, and everything. And it's like it tried to make a beautiful snow, but it didn't. And I don't know. I could tolerate the cold, but I'm going to need some beautiful snow. This one is going to be a little bit sensitive. So, drug use. So, I find that the level of drug use in Canada has gotten ridiculous, even among the youth. So, I was running a gym for a while. People would be coming faded, cross faded, as the kids say. And, I kind of just don't like the whole precedent. I understand that people are free to put what they want in their own bodies, but this sort of libertarian thinking works well in a vacuum. Eventually, you realize that kids are going to get a hold of it, people, vulnerable people. And you know what? I'm sure a lot of that stuff isn't bad in a vacuum, but the rampant drug culture doesn't seem like it's doing Canada many favors right now. So, yeah, I left partly because I got sick of people just medicated on big pharma drugs or self-medicated on whatever kind to get zonked. And I mean, enough stuff's legal or accessible enough for you to be blasted any day of the week. So that was a big one for me. So, what's your list?